Welcome to a Blackburn End Podcast FA Cup match review special as Rovers travel to Middlesbrough and grab a 1-0 win after a lovely Andy Vyman finish. Let's be honest, it was a lacklustre game. That it did spring into action now and again, but we move on in the rounds and we can all be happy with the results. To be honest, I think it was a game where most people were coming into, they weren't necessarily that bothered about the results. I think from both sides, really, from what I could see. The first half was pretty poor. Second half came into it a little bit, but it just seemed like everyone there didn't necessarily want this game at the moment. But we managed to get some changes in, and we managed to see some of our new players finally. So let's get into that team news. So straight off the bat, obviously Toth comes in goal. Pears has been in great form all season. When Toth come in the summer, I think we was all expecting him to really get a run of games, but because he came in so late, he didn't have a chance to have a pre-season behind him and prove his worth. And obviously we got knocked out of the Carabao Cup quite early, which would have been games he would have had. Now, we'd heard good things about him from where he'd come from, but this was obviously the first game that he got to play. Other ones coming in were John Buckley, Andy Vyman, JRC, and Harry Leonard's got his start. Harry Leonard was one I was really looking forward to seeing as well. I rate him very highly, and it was nice to get him a start. Obviously, Koji Dubry and Hedges both miss out with their injuries, but notably, we saw Isaac Dunn on the bench, David Dunn's son. There's obviously some other names there with Litherland, Pratt, O'Grady Macken, and Tijon also being on the bench. So a very young bench, which was nice to see as well. It's something that we're proud of as Rovers fans. Looking at the Middlesbrough team, they had quite a lot of rotation themselves. But yeah, the game got started, and I'll be honest, the first 10 minutes, I tweeted out saying it was a game of we don't want to be here vibe, and it was very much like that throughout the whole first half. I made a few notes during the game. Becky loves his shirt pull, doesn't he? I'm getting a bit concerned with how often he likes to pull a shirt. I think he's going to get pulled onto that quite a bit. And Leonard loves an offside. He had so many offsides that first half. There was a couple that were unlucky, to be fair. But then there was some of them where it was a little bit silly. But yeah, that first half, it was just something to kind of get through, really, as a fan, as a player. From a goalkeeper point of view, Toth did quite well. He was solid. He was coming for crosses. He was quick off his line. He seemed very happy to have the ball at his feet. And then he goes and scuffs a pass straight to their strike. And I was thinking, oh no, what? The fans are going to get on his back. But he seemed to want the ball still, and he looked really, really solid. Coming towards the end of the half, we started to get a couple of chances. Andy Vyman scuffs one. Maybe should have done a bit better, but he was under pressure. But the one I was really happy to see was when Leonard cut himself back to about 10 yards out. Vyman cut it back, and he did a nice side foot volley. It did hit the bar, but he showed good technique, good movement, and this is something that I've seen. I tweeted out saying that he looks like Matty Derbyshire 2.0 to me. Yeah, okay, he's not necessarily the strongest, but he looks like he's got that instinct to get in the right places and really look for the goal, basically. But yeah, half time, I think everyone was just chuffed when that came because, yeah, it was a pretty lacklustre affair. But second half, yeah, we come out and we really start to kind of pressure them a little bit. Leonard had a chance at the back post, just needed to get his leap a little bit higher to kind of get the ball under control, but he just headed one over the bar. And then we saw a great save from Toth. The ball was hit long. Danny Bart got caught underneath it, bounced off his head. There was quite a hard volley, and Toth not only reacted, but he got the ball really far out of danger. And it was a great reaction save. And I think everyone started to see a little bit more from him then. He liked the ball back at him, but you could tell he was communicating. The one thing I really liked at one point was the ball was kind of scuffed a little bit towards the goal, and Hyam had turned his back to the play and was trying to guide it back to the keeper. And normally in this situation with Pears, he would actually just take control, dribble it out wide and just clear it up the line, and we could still be potentially in danger. But no, Toth takes control. He comes to his feet. Heim trusts him and gives him the protection of the ball, and Toth takes control, and the play is completely dead. And that's what you want out of a goalkeeper. So I was really impressed with that. But the rest of the game, it was just getting sloppy. The passes were sloppy. We seemed to get into it a little bit more, but there was just passes from both teams, to be honest, that just seemed to be very League Two level going out of play. And I just thought this was going to peter out into a 0-0. But then Vyman starts to try and make his own luck. He's chasing that ball down, puts Glover under pressure. To be fair, Glover messed up a little bit. Could Vyman have done better and scored? I'm not too sure. He was claiming for a penalty, but the angle I saw wasn't great. But he goes and gets his goal. Some good play down the left by Beck. Good cross. It's pretty poor defended into danger. And Mark said all along on the podcast, if he had someone taking a 1v1, he would want it to fall to Vyman. Well, this wasn't a 1v1. It was a nice clinical 15-yard finish into the far corner. And that was it then. I felt like the game was ours. I mean, Borough started to bring their big boys on, but we looked in control. I know that Toth made a good save. It was a little bit for the cameras, but generally they didn't look up to much. But there was one note I wanted to make at the end, really, because when Dolan and Gay came on, I'll be honest, there was times where I thought they looked decent, but I started to think that we looked a little bit poorer. I could be wrong. I mean, stick some comments down below what you think. But I like the performance of Leonard and I like the performance of Cantwell. But when Dolan and Gay came on, there was a couple of times where they didn't link up too well, and Dolan seemed very frustrated. And I just thought that we started to look a little bit shaky. But we saw it out, and we're on to the next round. Hopefully we get someone where we can rotate the team again. Obviously, we've had a couple of signings come in, so that's going to be an interesting one to see how many more we get in. But yeah, I was hoping for a little bit more rotation on that starting lineup, but it does show the levels of play that we've got for depth when we've got so many young players on the bench. We couldn't bring any real experience into the starting lineup, so we did stick with that back four that we know and love. But my thoughts as well was, has he done that to see how Toth works with these players? Because the trouble is when you are rotating players, you don't necessarily get a feel of how they're playing when they're playing with players that aren't necessarily in that starting lineup. So to see Toth working with that back four and looking quite solid, I mean, the passing around at the back was really nice. We made some really good possession at the back, and Toth looked really, really comfortable. So yeah, I was quite happy with that in the end. I wanted to do a bit of a review of the players that played, but I'm not sure I can really give a clear view, because looking at it, it was just such a drab game in the most part. I mean, I thought Britton, Bart, Heim and Beck were all solid enough working with Toth. Vyman, I thought, had a really good game. JRC was playing on that right wing. He had some good play as well. There was a couple of times where you could tell he was just missing that, match sharpness at the right wing position. Tronstad and Cantwell were just doing what they normally do. Tronstad actually misplaced quite a few passes today, but I wanted to talk about Harry Leonard. Now, I saw on X quite a few people moaning about Leonard, saying about how they weren't happy with some of the chances he missed, because we should have had a penalty and he got pelters for being weak. Well, the ball was played kind of behind him, so he's got himself between the defender and the ball. He's trying to take a touch and actually release it to get a shot off, and the defender comes through the back of him. And yeah, I think it was a penalty. I really do. I thought that it was clumsy from the defender, and I thought that Leonard, was unlucky not to get a penalty. But he showed some really good movement. I thought his instincts looked good. His technique looked good. Yes, okay, he needs to be a little bit faster and stronger, but doesn't the rest of the side? So I think we've got a really talented player in Harry Leonard, and I don't want people bringing him down because we had it with Matt Derbyshire, and I can see a lot of Matt Derbyshire in Harry Leonard. And I think we've got a very talented striker there, and I want to make sure that between him and some of the other young players that we're not putting too much pressure on them, and that we just appreciate the fact that when they're coming on, there's going to be a few little things that we don't necessarily agree with that experienced strikers may do, but he's a talented player, and I was quite chuffed with him. As far as the management was concerned with the tactics, not much change, so I can't really say anything there. We didn't make that many subs. The subs came late in the day, so it seemed quite obvious he was happy to ride with whatever happened. And Harley O'Grady-Macken comes on at the end. He looked very excited. He did manage to touch the ball quite early on his appearance. With a bit of an overhead kind of clearance, hook away. But yeah, I mean, it would have been nice to see a few more subs coming on. I think because it was a 1-0 and because we just wanted to see out the game and move on, I think Eustace probably just saw an opportunity to actually just move on in this competition, which is why we didn't see the other people. Another player to note was McFadden, who didn't get on the pitch. I think there's question marks over that of why he didn't come on. Now, I've said that he is a coach on the training pitch, actually on the pitch itself. And when you see him warming up, he does a lot of coaching style movements, but further up the pitch when he's warming up. But yeah, it was interesting not to see him start. But I think it all comes down to them wanting to see what Toth was like with these players. And I have to say, he passed the test. I thought he was extremely good. Yes, okay, there was that one misplaced pass, but he looked good with his feet. He came for crosses. He made some good saves. His communication was good. People seem to trust him, and it's someone that I think we can hopefully see in the next round playing. But put your comments down below what you thought about the game. It was definitely a game to forget. It will go down as in the records as a 1-0 win to us, and we move on. But yeah, put your comments down below. What was your reaction? And we'll read them out in the podcast. And make sure you subscribe and tune in. It's out every Tuesday morning, and we'll see you then.